Here's a question for the passport bros. Are you guys just full on no women from the West at all anymore, ever? Or are you open to a certain type of unicorn woman of the West that you believe doesn't exist, but she does? And what would those qualities be? Comment below. The ladies want to know.
Hello YouTube, it's your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is called, Will Passport Bros Come Back to the Table with American Women? And the way this video came about is, I was watching Coach Greg Adams' video, and shout out to him. He had a video on there from a TikToker that had a question for the Passport Bros. So I played her video at the beginning of this video to give you a clip of, what pretty much like her questions for the Passport Bros. And I want to use this video to pretty much go ahead and answer her question and pretty much give my side of the whole ordeal and kind of share my my thoughts and so forth. So to start off answering some of her questions, first thing she asked was, I guess she wanted clarity on more so our Passport Bros. Are we all straight? With the same mentality of we're only dating foreign women, period. Like we're not coming back, we're not coming to the table, we're not trying to work things out. Like where do we all stand? And just my personal view, I would say that we're kind of split on this. You do have some Passport Bros that are 100%. I'm only dating foreign women, period. I will never deal with another American woman ever again. And then you do have some men who are more on the side of, while they will date foreign women, they are open if that unicorn of a woman does appear that just for whatever reason happens to be submissive, she's fit, she gets along with them and so forth. Because keep in mind that a lot of Passport Bros, I really want to say most of us in general, we did have a level of success in the States. It's not like we didn't get any women. It's just, in my personal opinion, that your options are far better once you leave the States, and also the quality as well. So it makes it very hard to want to go back to the United States after dealing with, the level of quality, the level of submissiveness, the level of femininity that you get when you deal with women overseas. It's very hard to leave that and come back to the United States where you literally go into grocery stores and you see women with their hair in a ponytail with a baseball cap on, wearing jogging pants or pajamas, that can be very, loud. Some of them very ratchet, that kind of thing. Not to say that you will never find those women overseas, but it's just not the same. It's just like a lot of women overseas, like literally just to go to the store, they kind of dress, just dress to impress. I don't want to give the image of like it's like that everywhere, but in general, the women overseas, and even just in like South America and like DR and so forth, they know they have to compete, so they generally try to look their best whenever they leave, like their house. They're always looking for they're trying to compete with other women, because in those countries you can't just get by on like being pretty, because there is a pools and pools of beautiful women. Because keep in mind, in the United States, the obesity rate is out of control. We have one of the highest obesity rates in the world. So literally, all you have to really do in the United States to be somewhat considered attractive is just be somewhat in shape, be just skinny. And I haven't even mentioned whether, like, in the face, if you look pretty or not. It's just really now down to if you're just kind of slim, or like, somewhat if your curves are somewhat proportionate. You have like a decent dress size and that kind of thing. As long as you kind of got that for the most part, because men in the United States are so thirsty and starving for beauty and love. And as my, one of my buddies, Pablo Frescobar would say, there's a beauty deficit in the United States. So anytime, if you're even a woman slightly attractive in the United States, she's getting lots of likes and lots of DMs and that kind of thing. So a woman who's literally like a 5 in the States, she thinks she's like like an 8 or even a 10, versus in like Colombia, Brazil, Germany, DR, you can't just get by on just being slim and cute. You gotta, in addition to that, because there's so many girls that are also in shape as well. Because also keep in mind that the foods in these other countries, they eat a whole lot better than we eat. I believe they were saying, and don't quote me on this, but something about maybe like 70 different chemicals that are banned in countries outside the United States, but we have in our foods here. A lot of our foods here kind of, as you know, are bad for our health, but also make us gain weight and cause all types of problems. Versus in other countries, they don't really have that. So a lot of times, the women there, they'll build beautiful, beautiful all over, curves, pretty face. So there, you can't just get by on just being pretty. You got to actually put forth a little bit more effort to compete for, a top quality guy. So you will have women there that like to cook for their man. Cook for their man, get their man massages. It's to the point where like, because also considering these countries, there's like poverty everywhere. So any man of any means has some type of value there, and a lot of times in these countries, because you have that, and also keep in mind that there's sometimes in some countries there's also a gender imbalance where there's like more women than there are men. So you have that working in men's favor as well. Plus, these governments, they're not for the whole machine of welfare. They're not welfare states. So you got to fend for yourself. So women there can really, really appreciate a man who's on his grind, who's about his business, who can take care of her. So when she has a man like that, she really is in her feminine frame. She's really trying to compete for that man. So you can't just get by on just being pretty there. So that type of woman versus woman in states where you literally have daddy government pretty much playing a role of the husband and boyfriend, pretty much, devaluing the value of a man in general. So a lot of times you have women, they feel like and plus they have these state jobs as well. So like a lot of times they feel like there's not much men can really do for them except maybe, maybe if he has a good sense of humor, or maybe he's just like extremely handsome, or something like that to kind of get her, a little, warmed up or whatever. So in many cases, if you're not really like that, you don't really have like a ton of money, it's going to be like some women have a very difficult time seeing the value in a man. So a lot of times they don't really respect you. So versus overseas and in some of these other countries, especially Latin America, women can on a daily basis, they see the value in men. They see the scarcity and jobs and safety, and they really value having men in their lives. Because think about countries where you got to make something out of nothing, where there's literally no jobs. The currencies are being devalued. A lot of the jobs they have there, it's not like a lot of white collar jobs. You're talking about jobs that can be easily replaced, with a surplus of workers to do these jobs. So some jobs, so a lot of times your income is not guaranteed. So in that case, they're looking for men who have provision, who can give. So it's not just about money as well. They want a man who has a plan. They want a man who can kind of lead them somewhere, who can encourage them. And a lot of these qualities, a lot of American men possess, but the women in the United States kind of take these for granted because, as I said before, you have so many programs. You have so many programs that cater to them, and a lot of times, even in the media, we just generally coddle a lot of the women. So, and you have so many thirsty men and simps as well who don't mind being like like a little side dude or part of her a la carte, where she has one guy who fixes her car, another guy that helps her with her groceries, bringing them to the house. So a lot of guys are so thirsty for a woman's attention, it just, it makes it, very, in many cases, it kind of makes them feel like that they're the prize, in which they'll find out if they ever leave the country that and outside of the United States, men are the prize, for the most part, Now, of course, are there some men who feel like it should be more of a 50-50 partnership and that kind of thing? That's fine. Like I can't speak for all men, because you have some men who are like that. Like when you ask them, are you the head of the household? They'll say, no, we're equal partnership. There's no head of the household, that kind of thing. Although most men, a lot of men will consider the man to be the head of the household. He leads the house. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when bad decisions are being made, when something happens to the household, a lot of times they're looking at the man and they're looking at, what did you do? they're not looking at the woman and asking her how does she contribute. They're always looking at the man. So it's, a lot of times the responsibility falls on top of the man. So that's why a lot of times the man is usually in charge. So and just in general, I mean, it's just a matter of like who is more you know built to really run the household. I mean, as Kevin Samuels has said, hips are for bearing children, and shoulders are for bearing weight. Men are we're pretty much built to handle the weight and responsibility of the world. So we try to, even though women try to like make it into like a demeaning type of thing where they were being submissive or saying that the man is head of the household is demeaning, but really it's really a protection. We're really covering the woman. We're really just taking the stresses off their back and bearing that for them. I don't really like me personally. I'm not really a fan of seeing women in survival mode or seeing them having to try to take on the role of a man. I just don't think that they were built like that. That's why you have so many women now who are on depression medication, and you got women now actually dying at younger rates. It's because they're taking on stresses that I don't really believe they were really built to do. So so you have that. So to get back to her question, it really depends. I mean, because the other aspect of this is the marriage rate. I mean, the risk of marriage in the States. It's just so many dangers in which you can literally have everything taken from you. And in some states, they used to have it, where you would pretty much pay like permanent alimony. So a lot of times, guys after divorce, they would be like not only paying child support, but they're paying alimony, and they have to give their house. They have to get this little small one, bedroom apartment, or maybe even like rent out a room because they just don't have any money after the divorce. So a lot of times, guys are just saying, "I'm just going to leave to kind of get away from the marriage laws." So until they change the marriage laws to make things a little bit more fair, I mean, this is. As I believe about like 30% of men are going to be passport bros very, in the coming future. That's just the way it's going to be until they do something about these laws. So, that being said, are there some men who will date like a traditional American woman who's in the States? Of course, there'll probably be some men here and there that travel there and there, but then out of the blue, maybe they find a unicorn and then she takes care of them and so forth. They go off and get married. Me personally, I'm not opposed to that. I just think it's very unlikely. And the other problem is even the women here who are somewhat traditional, the quality is never going to be the same in many cases as it is like in a Colombia where women are brought up in that culture to respect the man, and she sees the value of a man. Like her level of competitiveness for a man is going to be far greater than a woman in the States where she just feels like, well, if she ever gets tired of the man, she always depend back on the state, or she can call the police if he acts up. At any time she has like, the government backing her for the most part. Government backing her. You got all this propaganda in the media, telling her why she doesn't, why she doesn't need you, why you're oppressing her. And it's always going to be this constant battle of her always feeling like to some degree you're trying to oppress her or you try to mansplain her, that kind of thing. Versus other countries, they don't really look at it like that. They look at it from a healthy standpoint of which the man is there covering his woman, he's protecting her, he's giving her provision, he's leading the household. It's just completely different. And I'm not saying you can't necessarily find it here in the States. It's just not plentiful. And when it's not plentiful, you're gonna be acting from a place of scarcity. And when you act from a place of scarcity, you're gonna be putting a lot of these women on their pedestal. And a lot of times when you do that, you kind of become more on the simpish side. And a lot of times, women after a while they start to devalue you and start to they don't see you as attractive as a while. Which is why in the States, I think the average marriage was only about 5 to 7 years. But after that honeymoon period wears off, you gotta that's what a lot of men are looking at. What happens after that honeymoon period? Will she still be in love with me? Is she gonna bear it out? But here in the States where like people are getting divorced left and right and women being encouraged that they don't need men, and in many cases they're constantly with all the social media there, there's constant propaganda in a lot of the women's mind that she can always do better. So even though she's with you, she's always secretly believing that at some point she can do better than you. So um versus in these other countries, women have dealt with the men, the quote unquote Poogie and Ray Rays of their culture on a constant basis. They've been competing with they've dealt with all types of different types of men in many cases. So I just think that they've kind of already what's the word, been through the fire, and I can kind of identify when they have a good catch. Versus in the States, we kind of cushion the women and collar them from all their mistakes. And even when they do make a lot of mistakes dealing with men, there's no accountability. They always try to make it to some degree where it was the man's fault or something. Versus other countries, it's not like that. If you wind up losing your man to another woman, you gotta take accountability to some degree. And in that case, you really, really need men because, as I said before, you need men in these countries for protection and that kind of thing, because a lot of times the police, they're not really looking after a lot of women and the people in the community in general. You can't really trust the police a lot of times. So a lot of times the women depend a lot of times on their man for their protection and guidance. So it's just completely different. I mean, and then one of the comments she made, I just want to kind of critique a little bit. Now, overall, she seems like a decent woman. I looked at some of her other videos. I think she's like a dating coach or something like that. So I think that's why she's trying to, as we said before, a lot of these dating coaches and stuff, it's kind of like we're kind of taking money out of their pocket. So she seemed like she has some genuine interest, questions. She even had a video somewhat supporting Passport Bros. So that's why I'm not going too hard on her particularly. I'm just answering her question from a genuine space. But another comment she made that I was kind of like, that's kind of the problem is later on she talked about, that there are women in states that do want partnership and want to do things equally with you. And as I said before, why would I want to do that when I can have a traditional woman who actually enjoys the man being the head of the household and wants me to be the head of the household, and she's not going to be constantly competing with me to make decisions in our household. She's going to allow me to be in my masculine frame, and she's going to stay in her feminine frame, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make sure she's comfortable in her feminine frame, and she can do all her womanly things around the house. And in many cases, most Passport Bros, these are generally men who have a decent amount of income. If most of them can kind of support the women somewhat on their own. And the many who maybe cannot, with a simple remote job, they can live in her country and support her full time where she doesn't have to really work. She can just depend on them. So there's no real need for partnership. Not to say that, and then plus, even, my girl in general, she doesn't mind. She actually wants to work. I don't want her to work, but she, doesn't like the fact that she kind of wants to have her own little money here and there and that kind of thing, which is fine. But I only brought it up to say that, there might be some guys who want their woman to work to contribute to the household, which there's nothing wrong with that as well, but what I'm saying is that, in most cases, you don't have to, we're not really looking so much for like a partnership. We're kind of just looking for traditional roles. So I'm going to end it on that. I kind of went on a long rant. I didn't want this video to be that long. I just kind of want to touch on this video. But you guys tell me what you think. Why don't you answer her questions in the comment section and, let me know what you think about her questions and what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not. I'm trying to grow my channel. I've been away for a little bit. I have a lot of little work here and there that I've had to do. I'm going to try to get it a little bit more consistent. But yeah, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell. Please share the video when you can. And until next time, this is your boy, the Passport Bro Wingman, signing off.
Dear Passport Boys, dear Passport Bros, stop calling yourself Passport Boys and Passport Bros. Are you going to the Philippines to look for a Filipina queen or what? So stop calling yourself Passport Boys and Passport Bros. Start calling yourself Passport Kings.